host, Wake Draftkings, and joining me, the tremendous trifecta. I don't know what to usually call us. I usually just work with one guy on the cap. Got Chris Alamo, Fantasy Football Hive. Chris, how's it going over there, buddy?
What's going on? Glad to be here.
Hell yeah. Glad to have you. And Meerkat, founding father of the Dart of the Day, sporting a pretty nice sweatshirt there. Meerkat, what you got on right there? Where'd you get that?
We have from the Trainwreck Sports Store, link in the bio, the Twitter. Check it out. We have our division champion shirts, hoodies, all that long sleeve t-shirt, hoodie, whatever you need. Couple different colors of it. The Allentown, I love it. It's comfortable. It's a great design. Looks good. And any playoff gear I can get my hands on, I'm buying.
Oh my god. Yeah, that's definitely one of the freshest hoodies that we've ever put out on Trainwreck. And man, he's sporting it all right there. It's a good segue into talking about the games. We're going to be doing DFS specifically for the playoffs right now. Obviously, Wild Card Weekend, 3 games each day. We're going to start with Saturday games. Then we're going to go into Sunday games. Going to talk about almost every player you should know about for these games. We're going to start with the early game. And so you guys know, if you're not doing DFS, if you're doing like a one-and-done fantasy league for the playoffs, if you're doing whatever, we're going to try to make it as relevant for the fantasy advice that we can give so that even if you don't do DFS, if you do FanDuel, DraftKings, RT Sports, whatever you're doing, we're going to try and make this as relevant for everybody who's doing any kind of degenerate fantasy action for Wild Card Weekend. So, first game of the weekend, one that we are very, very familiar with. Bills-Colts, 105 kickoff. Over-under started at 52, second highest for the slate, only to Tennessee and Baltimore. So they're thinking there's going to be a lot of scoring in this game. Chris, maybe start with you. Who sticks out on this slate as someone that you really want to have in your lineups?
Well, I don't want to be biased, so I'm just going to ignore Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, but they're going to definitely be in my slate. Mm-hmm. I was looking at, honestly, Jonathan Taylor a lot because he's averaged 25 points over the last 5 games, 9 carries per game. He's getting the ball. He's the focal point of that offense. I think if they go down, they're still going to throw the ball to him. He's going to be involved one way or another. I think he's definitely a threat to the Bills, but I feel like we're going to be game plan for him, but I think he's still going to get his,
Yeah, Meerkat, is Jonathan Taylor someone you're trying to sneak into your lineup here?
Yeah, I think Jonathan Taylor is going to have a good time against the Bills' defense. I don't think he's going to do what he did last week necessarily. Bills' run defense has come a long way this year. They're healthy. They're clicking, but he is a good running back. They did not waste draft capital taking him that high. He's really coming into his own. One thing I'm worried about with Taylor play is Nyheim Hines getting a lot of snaps because not with rushing, but in the receptions because he's been coming out of the backfield a lot more, and that's one area the Bills defense kind of struggles with is letting a running back out of the backfield kind of towards the flat or the open area with a little space to the edge. That kills them, and Hines is a dude who can definitely abuse them there.
Yeah, Nyheim Hines is someone I wanted to mention because if you look at the price difference on FanDuel, I'm not sure how big it is on DraftKings, but Jonathan Taylor, $8,800. They're really making you pay up for him, and it's no secret the Bills do kind of hemorrhage points to running backs in fantasy. But Nyheim Hines is $3,200 cheaper. He's not at $5,600. So if you're maybe worried about trying to fit Allen and Diggs into your lineups, Nyheim Hines I think is a good pivot from Jonathan Taylor. I didn't know this. Nyheim Hines led them in catches this year.
Yeah. Hilton had a real down year. The Pascal's nice. They had got drafted Pittman Jr. as a nice deep threat, but their receivers aren't great, and it's kind of what you see with like Washington doing with J.D. McKissick a bit, where you're just playing your running back as another receiver out of that backfield. They don't really take any carries. They're running routes. They're running wheels. They're running actual receiver routes. Sometimes they're splitting out wide out of the backfield in motion. I think it's a situation like that where he is such a good receiver, but he's not a true receiver where you're going to line him up against the corner and expect him to get separation or anything. But yeah.
Right. Plus, Rivers loves throwing to the running back. We saw that was awesome last week.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. And he
arm is dying.
It's dying, yeah, and I was doing some previews, getting some research ready for the cap for the show that we're gonna have on Thursday with someone from SB Nation, who covers the Colts. And like, not only does Nyheim Hines lead them in catches, but the Colts, out of all the playoff teams in the AFC, target the running backs the most, and out of all playoff teams, target them the third most. They had over like 140 targets total on the year. So, there's probably a good shot that Jonathan Taylor eats in the passing game too. It's not like he wasn't used there. But the 8,800 might be a little rich for my blood. Chris, in like your rankings for Saturday, how high do you have Jonathan Taylor, and how high do you have Nyheim Hines?
I have Jonathan Taylor sitting at 3.
Okay.
I have Hines closer to, I think you have him at 10. I have him at 10 on mine.
And that's for Saturday or for the whole weekend?
Oh, that's for Saturday. For the whole weekend, I have him around 15.
Wow. Okay. Cool. Meerkat, where do you have them for Saturday?
Saturday, I have Taylor number 2, and Hines I actually had pretty high, like a lot. I have him at my 6th running back for the Saturday slate.
Yeah, I'm a little closer to you. I actually have Taylor at 1, and I have Hines at 5. I just don't think that, like tight end and running back targets and snap counts and everything are like very correlated. That's something I've learned over the past couple of years. And since the Colts don't use their tight ends almost at all, like they have Trey Burton, Mo Alley-Cox, Jack Doyle. So I think that I think the Colts running backs together are going to both do pretty well. And I'm not really targeting any of the receivers. Like we talked about T.Y. Hilton a little bit. Chris, any receivers that you're possibly looking at, even as like a dart throw, unintended there, Meerkat?
On the Colts?
Yeah, on the Colts.
No, I mean Michael Pittman maybe, but I just not maybe as a dart throw if I had to make some room for some salary, but I'm not expecting him to do anything special really, especially against the Bills' top-ranked pass defense.
Yeah, and I don't think that this is like the Saturday slate. I don't think is a slate where you really need to try to save money. I think there's like kind of a lot of value in someone like Nyheim Hines. There's another running back that I like that there's some value in that we'll talk about in a little bit. But we started with this game. We haven't even mentioned the Bills yet. So Meerkat kicked this side of the football off. Obviously, the more exciting side of the football. Shocking. I did not know the Colts are actually top 5 AFC offense. They actually, they ended the year in their last 6 games. They had 28 points a game. They had, I think, 8 straight games with 26 points and they won every single game. So that's not an offense that we should omit. But clearly the Bills' offense is superior. Are you like stacking Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen, or are you getting a little more creative than that?
I'm going to stack Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen, but in a lot of lineups. But I'm going to wait for Cole Beasley news more for that. It's looking like he's probably not going to play. I'm not sure, and it's how McDermott is, but he was totally out of practice today. I love Diggs. He's a monster. We know he leads the NFL in receptions, targets, catches, yards, all of it. But I like Gabriel Davis a lot if Cole Beasley doesn't play. John Brown's going to come in, and this is no disrespect to John Brown. He was great in his first game back, but he's a Dolphin killer. You expected that. But Gabriel Davis is a guy I just love. He's a guy I'm investing in with my trading cards and stuff because I think he's going to be a stud. He's shown incredible catches all year. He just doesn't get a ton of targets, but a lot of his targets do come in the red zone. I think he leads Bills receivers in touchdown catches this year. And he looks great. I like him if Cole Beasley doesn't go as a cheaper play. Right now on DraftKings, Gabriel Davis is $4,000. Well, Cole Beasley, who's probably not going to play, is $5,300. John Brown is $4,700. Isaiah McKenzie you can get for pretty cheap, but I don't see that performance repeating.
Yeah, no, Chris, I know I'm looking at my lineup right now. I'll admit I am stacking Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs as it stands right now. Meerkat said he probably is. You too?
100%. I'll probably stack another Bills receiver with that as well.
Yeah. Would you go Gabe Davis or John Brown? Who's your preference there? Davis is about $700 cheaper.
I agree with Meerkat. If Beasley's not going, Gabe Davis is 100% in my lineup, especially at $4,000. That's a steal.
He's almost guaranteed at least a long catch with a few other targets or a touchdown because he's done it every game recently.
And in general, you want around like 3 points for every like dollar that you spend on a player. So if you're spending $5,000 on Gabe Davis, 5 times 3, you want 15 fantasy points. I think that's very, very doable. The Colts are actually, despite how great their defense is, they're actually top 10 in 20-plus yard plays against. So there's definitely some room for Gabe Davis to get those catches. Definitely some room for Stephon Diggs to eat too. So I honestly think a Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis stack could be kind of fun, especially if you're a Bills fan, obviously. But you do have to talk about the running backs. Antonio Williams looked like the best running back of all time compared to Zach Moss and Devin Singletary, how they've been all year. I doubt that he's going to get called up for the game. He probably earned a call up, or, if there's a COVID issue or injuries that come up, definitely earned some playing time if he were to get the call. But, between Zach Moss and Devin Singletary, I don't have either of them ranked higher than 8 for the day, and I think like 13 on the weekend for running backs. Meerkat, anything there for the Bills running backs?
Yeah, Williams won't be a factor. It's funny because I look and he's the cheapest you can get on DraftKings, 4,000, but he averages 21.3 points a game. It's funny, but he might make this playoff roster for, special teams or reserve purposes because, Yeldon and stuff always being a scratch and all that. He's kind of earned it, and he was the special teams player of the year for North Carolina in college his senior year. So he's a guy who can play that, but I have Zach Moss at 7. I have him above Singletary for Saturday, but he's 7. I think you said you had your highest bill at 8 at running back. I like Moss. He's over Singletary because he's been getting a lot more looks recently. They are throwing to him, even though Singletary is, I would say, the main receiver out of the Bills' backfield. But they're throwing to Moss. He's getting a lot more carries, and he's getting those goal line carries. I think Moss's potential and the trend with him is more valuable to me than Singletary's probably more targets.
Yeah, Chris, 5,500 for Moss on FanDuel, 5,300 for Singletary, so barely a difference, unless you're talking about like the difference between getting one defense and another. Are you going to try to sneak any of those guys in, or just no offense, but
Forrest Buckner? Honestly, they have a really good run defense in Indy.
Yeah.
I'm expecting us to air it out like we always do.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe some garbage time. I'm expecting us to win big, to be honest.
Interesting. Okay.
So I think that there could be some garbage time runs, but that's not what I'm looking for. I'm trying to get that big pop out of a running back instead of just hoping for late game.
Yeah, no, I don't see a whole lot. Like Singletary didn't get going this year at all, except for the Chargers game and the end of the Denver game. Zach Moss has been. He's like they both play the exact same amount. They both average about 50% of the targets, 50% of the snaps for the running backs on the Bills. So, I love the guys as people, but they're just not the best running backs on this slate by any means necessary. So, definitely no reason to go down to them to try and save up somewhere else. We'll move into the 4:00 game now because I think that just about sums that up. We're not going to talk Dawson Knox or Tyler Kroft. Those are real dart throws if you're really struggling for tight end. But then 4:00, 4:40. Actually, sorry, we have the Rams and Seahawks. We'll start on the Rams just because I feel like we'll be able to get through them pretty quickly. It's looking like Jared Goff's not going to play. So that being said, the Seahawks did have a historically bad pass defense. Is that enough for Meerkat? We'll start with you since Prince ended. Is that enough for you to play John Wolford?
No, I wrote here, it doesn't matter who starts. Goff is going to have a long road, they said today, if he is to start. But either one would be my 6th-ranked quarterback for the Saturday slate. Wolford didn't look awful, and he can run that offense, I guess, but he's not ready for this. It doesn't matter how bad the Seahawks defense was. They've actually been really on the uptick recently, starting to make some plays. They would abuse him, I think, and Goff would be hobbled. It would be probably – I'd take a hobbled Goff over Wolford maybe, but I'm avoiding either of these quarterbacks like the plague this week.
Chris, same for you.
It's surprising to me that Seattle is the cheapest defense on FanDuel this week at 3,600.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, I wonder why that is, especially if Goff's hobbled and they're going to play Wofford. I don't want to think it's going to trick. It's a trick, but I kind of like that value, especially if Goff's not going to play. Wilson he had 19.9 at home last time he played the Rams. He had 11.92 points away. I mean, I don't know. I think that I like Seattle's defense this week, especially if you're trying to save some money in the slate.
Yeah.
And I have Wilson as my third quarterback on the day.
Third? Yeah. I have him at 2. So
Same.
and I wasn't super confident in putting him at 2. It just seems that there aren't a lot of great matchups for quarterbacks on this slate.
It was tough between him and Brady for me.
Yeah.
For 2 and 3.
Yeah, honestly, 2, 3, and 4 all kind of blended together to me. But 2 of those quarterbacks are in the late game, so we'll get to that a little bit later. But for me, I'm also not gonna worry about getting John Wolford in. Chris said it. Like, if you're gonna save money on this slate, you save money by going down from the Rams defense or the Bucs defense, who's probably like the trendy one, and going with Seattle for 3,600. That's by far I think that's like the greatest value, second greatest value that you can get on this slate right here. Another really great value, I think, is Cam Akers, though. Darrell Henderson, I believe he's going to be out. Don't quote me. And by the way, should have said this at the beginning of the show. We were recording.
Henderson's out, yeah.
Henderson is out? Okay.
I mean, he's listed as still IR, I believe. Yeah. At least on DraftKings, they're saying he's out, yeah.
Okay. But obviously, if any injuries pop up Wednesday morning, we're recording this Tuesday night, posting it Wednesday evening. So if there are any injuries Wednesday, we won't cover them here. If you hear us talking about someone that ends up getting hurt, maybe there's an update on Mclaurin or Stephon Diggs or somebody who's questionable right now. So take anything we say about the injured guys with a grain of salt. That being said, Cam Akers, no Darrell Henderson, Malcolm Brown has been extremely underwhelming. Cam Akers has looked like he could be a workhorse running back in the NFL, and the Seahawks had the 15th ranked run defense for fantasy players. 15th ranked for they're middle of the pack for running backs going against the defense is what I'm trying to say. So for me, that lands him at number 2 in the running backs for Saturday. And at 6,100, I think that's an insane value to get on someone who is probably going to get 20 touches as a running back, especially, probably a few catches in there because Wolford isn't the most experienced guy. He's probably going to lean on the 2 tight ends and is running back a little bit. Any interest from you guys in Akers, or are you staying away from this run game with Wolford back there?
No, I like Akers at the price tag he's at. I think he's I know he's at least on DraftKings, he's the second most expensive for this game, particularly behind Carson, obviously. But 5,100 is not bad value for Akers. What you could get out of him, even if Wolford, is terrible. Do they really just continue to abuse him? I think they won't completely abandon the run. We'll see. I might avoid it. If I were to play a Rams back, it would be Akers for sure. I do like Chris Carson a lot. I know he is not the same as he was in the beginning of the year from a DFS standpoint. He hasn't been breaking much away, getting a ton of targets, but I like the matchup, and I just think with the game plan Seattle's going into this, Carson's going to be pretty crucial, though.
Yeah, Chris, over to you.
I like Akers this week. He's had 86 carries over the last 4 games. They're proving that they're giving him the rock. He's their workhorse running back. Don't have their starting quarterback. I mean, I feel like the offense is going to run through him, especially if Henderson's out. He's going to get opportunity. I actually have him as my 3rd running back on the week. Or not on the week, on that.
Yeah, I'm looking at his stats, and I didn't look at his stats from last week before the show, and I probably should have because this tells it all. He had 25 touches, 21 rushing attempts, 4 targets. He caught all 4 targets for 52 yards. So I think he's probably as safe as it gets for a running back this week if he's going to get that kind of usage. I know Malcolm Brown was out last week, so maybe take it with a grain of salt. It's also a 1-game sample size, so a lot to kind of question there. But I do love, like I said, I do love Akers. Also really like Robert Woods. Cooper Kupp is going to be hurt coming into this game. Or he's been banged up all year. He's coming off the COVID list and everything. Woods, they get him involved in the run game. He's their leading receiver. He's honestly just old reliable. I miss having him in a Bills uniform. Maybe not as much this year because we have maybe the best group of receivers in the league now. But Bobby Trees is still lighting it up this year. Chris, back to you. If you're going to pick a Rams receiver, are you going Woods? Are you taking a gamble on Kupp, maybe Josh Reynolds?
So when I was looking at this game, I like when it's division games because you have some sample size from earlier in the season.
Sure.
So I'm looking at last time Woods played at versus Seattle at home, he had 6.1 points. Away, he had 6.9 points. Obviously, that's not indicative of what he could do this week, but that kind of scared me a little bit, just how well these division opponents know each other. Even DK Metcalf had 8.9 points home, 3.8 points away. Tyler Lockett, 5.9 points at home, 9.1 points away. They just know each other very well. I feel like this is going to be a gritty game, a gritty, low-scoring game. So I think I'm avoiding the receivers in this game altogether.
Meerkat, what about you? You thinking that same way?
I like Woods this week. Cup's got that COVID situation. Is that updated? Is he going or expected to play?
I tried to look for like an hour earlier, and I couldn't find anything. Of course, this is airing on Wednesday, so maybe that's changed by now. But
so if Cup doesn't go, they're gonna feed Woods the ball, and I don't think Seattle's secondary is gonna pull much of a double team thing on Woods, or I think he doesn't really warrant that. Even though he's great, that's not a knock on him. I have Woods. If Evans doesn't play this week, I have Woods as my 6th receiver for the Saturday slate. Mm-hmm. So I do like him a lot, and there's not much else I love. I like Metcalf over Lockett on DraftKings. Lockett is $200 more, but I do like Metcalf over Lockett. I might look at Metcalf, but I still don't think either of them in this matchup, like you said, they know each other so well. I don't think either of them really warrant the price tag they have at 6,900, 6,700. When you look at tight end, though, I don't hate Higbee. I know they have Everett as well, but Higbee is a nice, reliable guy. He's kind of like Kelsey, where he finds those cushions of space and he sits, and that's like a quarterback's best friend. So if Wolford goes, he's probably going to look for Higbee a lot. Last game, he had 4 targets, 3 catches for 41 yards with Wolford, so nothing special. He had a big down year this year, but I still like the situation he's in against Seattle's defense with Wolford potentially starting.
Yeah, the quarterbacks like Wolford, meaning like inexperienced quarterbacks, do usually rely on tight ends. So maybe that would divert some targets away from Cam Akers. So if you like, that's one thing I usually do if I'm playing a running back from one team. I usually don't play a tight end along with it for the same team. Like I said, because those touches are really often correlated. I'm pretty sure I remember like the only 2 that the Greg Olsen and Christian McCaffrey were like the only running back tight end duo to get more than like X amount of targets in a game, and that's just because they were both ridiculous. So usually they kind of cap each other's ceilings. Going over to Seattle, we started talking about DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. I'm kind of staying away from them for the same reason that have already been said. They're just the sample sizes from this year. I've had them on multiple fantasy teams. Really let me down every single time they played the Rams, which wasn't good because that was twice. So, and then on top of that, Chris Carson doesn't really interest me. They've always been so bad at using running backs properly. They have Carlos Hyde, they have Rashad Penny that they spent a 1st-round pick on for God knows why, because that's just who Pete Carroll is. So there's just not a whole lot that intrigues me from this game besides Akers, besides the tight ends that we talked about, and besides Woods. Is there anyone else you guys want to throw out here, or should we move on to the night game?
That's Seattle.
Yeah. Move on? All right, cool. We'll move on to the Bucks and the Washington football team. This game, to me, has the single greatest value on the slate, and to me, that is Terry McLaurin. He is my number 2 receiver for Saturday, and on the weekend, I believe I actually have him I still have him at number 2, only behind Stephon Diggs. That Tampa Bay secondary is really, really bad. And I know that the football team is going to want to pound the rock with Gibson like they have all year, but that's just the problem, is that front 7 for the Bucs is scary. They were the 3rd stingiest team for running back fantasy points this year. I don't think Antonio Gibson's really going to be it. If anything, J.D. McKissick might be better than him. I do have Gibson ahead of McKissick in my rankings, but I just think the running backs in general are going to struggle, and I think Terry McLaurin's really going to eat. And with a $7,100 price tag on FanDuel, that's like an insane value. He's been underpriced throughout his first 2 years in the league, and that just continues now. Meerkat, how do you feel about McLaurin / the running backs for the football team?
So McLaurin is 3rd on my rankings for Saturday behind Stephon Diggs and Chris Godwin, who he's playing against. And that's because even if Evans does go, that injury was pretty rough. He's not going to be 100%. I think Godwin's going to be the guy. I actually moved Antonio Brown up my rankings a bit too. Scotty Miller just outside my top 15 there. Real close though, but I think Brady has a big day against Washington, even though they have a good defense. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. I like a lot of players on both of these teams, actually. I don't love Antonio Gibson. I do like J.D. McKissick, though. His price tag is pretty high. It's the third highest of the game behind Gibson and Ronald Jones, but $4,800, almost $1,000 cheaper than Gibson. I like him a lot more than that. And Ronald Jones, I think he's been playing great. This guy totally surprised me. I wrote him off completely, and I think he is worth his price tag, $5,500. Still cheaper than Antonio Gibson. I think he's the top performing back out of this game, but I do like McKissick because of the amount of targets he gets. It's DraftKings is different. This is why we get you and Chris are on FanDuel. DraftKings, I have the full point PPR, so it's a little different.
Yeah, Chris, McKissick or Gibson, McLaurin, what are you feeling in this game? Or Washington side?
I have a mirror image of what Meerkat was saying. McLaurin at 3, Godwin at 2, Diggs at 1. Then I have actually have Ronald Jones as my second running back.
I have him as third. Yeah, I love him.
Right, but Antonio, between Gibson and McKissick, I like McKissick, but Gibson is still gonna be the main guy. But if you're trying to save some money, I don't think it's going to be that far off, especially how good that defense is.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like McKissick's going to catch a lot of balls out of the backfield. They're going to be traveling a lot that game, I feel like. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for catches out of the backfield. And if you're trying to save some money, I don't think the gap will be that big between McKissick and Gibson.
Gotcha. Yeah, and then after that, there's just no one I guess you could talk about Logan Thomas. The Bucs have been historically bad against tight ends, not historically bad. I just really, really want them to lose. So I'm just trying to speak this shit into existence here. Bucs were 23rd against tight ends for fantasy points this year. So I think on this slate for just Saturday, Logan Thomas will probably be the highest scoring tight end, especially just with the nature of the game. And also, Alex Smith has kind of turned Logan Thomas into a good player, which is Logan Thomas or are Logan Thomas and Wyatt Teller the ones that got away? Maybe, but it's kind of crazy. But yeah, Logan Thomas maybe 6,400. How much is Logan Thomas on DraftKings?
Logan Thomas is 4,900. He's a pretty good value. He's my top tight end for this whole Saturday slate. And I actually don't hate Gronk. I have him as, it's not a great Saturday for tight ends. I have him as my third tight end. You look at outside those first 5 games, or 6 of the last 10 games, he's got all 7 of his touchdowns. Not a huge targets guy, but Brady, Gronk in the playoffs, we've seen it before.
Yeah, Chris, Logan Thomas or Gronk for you? Which one would you roll out?
I have Logan Thomas at 1, Gronk at 2. I think Gronk, like Meerkat said, I think Gronk's going to catch a touchdown from Brady, but I think Logan Thomas might do a little bit more than that. There's just plays, but I think Thomas is going to edge him out on total points.
Yeah, that's kind of where I am too. I have Logan Thomas at 1, Gronk at 2. And then we'll transition into Tampa Bay here. Obviously, we'll know more probably about Mike Evans tomorrow. That knee injury did look nasty, though, and it sucks because, he really had no reason to be out there playing. That's what I was scared of when Josh Allen and Diggs and everybody were out there. Yeah. So, anybody on the Bucs outside of, we talked about Chris Godwin. He's probably going to be the main beneficiary if Mike Evans is out. Mike Evans is in, probably still. But honestly, I'm looking at my lineup that I have right here right now. I have Antonio Brown in just because he's a good value to me at 6,500. But I'm not. This offense isn't really something I want to attack. You guys said you think it'll be more high scoring though. So who from this game do you guys have locked into your lineups from the Tampa side?
I'm gonna be playing Scotty Miller and GPP stuff for sure. It's just such a cheap price tag there, 3,400. He's a guy that I'm going forward thinking Evans isn't going to play, and like I said, if he plays, he's not going to have an impact because that injury was nasty. I know he's a tough dude. You saw Scotty Miller last week. He got 3 targets. He only caught 1 of them, but he's a guy who's kind of like he'll blow up every now and then. Like he had that 109-yard and a touchdown game this season, a couple touchdowns, sneaky 500 yards with that crowded Bucs receiving core there. But for you look at the drop off too in this game, at least on DraftKings, you have Godwin, Evans, Mclaurin, Brown, all 6,100 to 7,000, and then it drops off to Cam Sims 3,900, Scotty Miller 3,400. It's just so cheap. That's a nice value play where I might be able to bump up some other positions.
Chris, you're nodding your head a lot over there. Did you take the words right out of your mouth?
Yeah, so I actually have a lot of Bucs players high in my rankings this week.
Mm-hmm. Same.
Guy went at 2. Reason being, he's had 21 targets over the last 3, turned them into 253 yards, 4 touchdowns.
Wow.
Antonio Brown over the last 3 games has gotten 9 targets a game, has 20 catches, 266 yards, and 4 touchdowns.
Wow. I mean,
I haven't told
That's right. I know Brady threw AB a shit ton of passes at the end of the game so we could get that bonus, but I did not realize it was that high. Wow. Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's going to be a low scoring game, but obviously, you attack the games that you think are going to be high scoring. You avoid the ones you think are going to be low scoring. So, you can take everything all of us are saying, apply your own knowledge to it. Not going to tell you how to play your fantasy games, except that's what we are doing here, is telling you how to play your fantasy games. All right. We'll go quickly over the Saturday slate one more time. We'll talk about locks for our lineups. For myself personally, my 3 locks are going to be Josh Allen and Diggs as a stack and Mclaurin at 7,100. I think that value is just so good with him. And Allen and Diggs, like I said, Indy's given up over 50 plays, 20-plus yards this year. I think that's just going to continue with Josh Allen and Diggs back there. That's top 10 in the NFL right there for the Colts. Chris, what are your locks for Saturday?
My locks are also Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, and Antonio Brown, and probably Ronald Jones.
Your cat?
Allen Diggs, right there with you guys. And then I'm probably going to go Jonathan Taylor at running back there. And then I'm probably going to regret making this a lock, but I'm going with Gronk for the value there, the price tag. I think he's going to have a big game.
Yeah, definitely could see it. He doesn't look as mobile, but he's still coming down with all those ridiculously contested catches that Gronk is being.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be it for the Saturday slate. We'll move quickly into Sunday, spend about 10 minutes on each game like we just did there. 1 o'clock game, probably the most exciting game of the weekend. Baltimore and Tennessee. Lamar Jackson is my QB1 on the weekend. Obviously, that means QB1 for Sunday. There's no way I can avoid him playing against Tennessee. They've finally realized they don't have to prove to the world that Lamar Jackson is a good passer, because he's not. They're just letting him run the ball like crazy, and it's working for them. So, we'll start with Lamar Jackson and the Ravens run game. Also throwing in J.K. Dobbins just because at 6,800, he's been kind of on a roll lately. He was a league winner for a lot of fantasy players. Chris, start with you this time over here. What do you like on the Ravens side of the ball? Is Lamar a lock for you?
Lamar is actually right now my QB1, but I think him and Tannehill are interchangeable to me.
Really?
I have a feeling Tannehill's going to have himself a good game this week. I don't know why. I think they're going to have to keep up. Lamar is going to be all over the place. The only reason that I'm thinking about Tannehill in front of Lamar is because of Dobbins. But then again, Ryan Tannehill has Derrick Henry. So I think both of them are, great picks. But the last time they played, the score was 30-24. So there's going to be points. I think I'm going to stick with Lamar, but if I have to make room, because Lamar's $1,100 on FanDuel more than Tannehill,
yeah,
I might just go with Tannehill and not feel that bad about it.
Yeah, expecting a lot of points. This is the highest over-under total on the weekend with 56. I think it started at 55. It's actually moved up, which is insane. Meerkat, how do you feel about Lamar Jackson and the Ravens' run offense?
Fair warning, I'm all over the place with this Sunday slate. I got some weird takes, but I like Lamar Jackson. He's still my QB1, nothing crazy there. I think he's got a chance to abuse Tennessee, who has a bad linebacking core. They got a good secondary, pretty decent defensive line, but those linebackers are what you need to cover Lamar Jackson in that run game. And talking about that whole run game, I have Dobbins at 7. The only things I really like this week are the running backs. For Sunday are the running backs. I have Dobbins at 7, but right behind him I have Gus Edwards at 8. I like Gus Edwards a lot. He's getting a lot of looks for them. He is an efficient runner, and I think they're just going to run the hell out of the ball. So I like Edwards there, sneaky, because Harbaugh likes to mix it up with the backfield there, even though Dobbins is emerging as the guy they spent that pick on. I like him a lot too, but I think both of them are good options, and I love Lamar.
Yeah, Sunday's slate there are 3 running backs over $8,400 on FanDuel, and then one of them's Alvin Kamara, who may or may not play. We're unsure right now. But I believe he was just on the COVID list, but we would like to see him test negative and everything and come off the list. Obviously, we'll probably know about that by the time this airs tomorrow. But then on the Saturday slate, there's one running back over $8,000, and that's Jonathan Taylor. So it's a lot harder to ignore some of those top running backs. Like in this game, I am going to have Derrick Henry just because, it's especially in cash games where there's 50-50s. In GPP, you might be able to get away from him just because Tennessee might have to throw the ball a lot to keep up with Baltimore. But you really can't avoid Derrick Henry. And Gus Edwards, honestly, the more that you talking about him kind of made me realize that that's a great pivot down from J.K. Dobbins. On FanDuel, that saves you $1,100. And when you have those when you want to get Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, and I also have another pricey running back that we'll talk about in a little bit, it's going to be important to get down from all that. So that might be a good way for me to save $1,100.
It saves you $2,200 on DraftKings. Dobbins is 66. Dobbins is 66, and Edwards is 44. That's why I love Edwards so much.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Dobbins at 3 on my rankings this week.
Yeah, I had him at 4, but the way that they spread the ball around in the Baltimore backfield, Edwards is a really, really good. That might be the value of the entire slate, to be completely honest.
That was going to be my Sunday lock.
Wow. And then on the other side of the Baltimore side of the offense, you don't really want to attach yourself to a Ravens pass catcher unless his name is Mark Andrews, probably. But he's even a little too expensive if you want to get Henry, if you want to get Lamar Jackson. So, are any of you willing to take a chance on a Willie Snead or a Marquise Brown or something like that? Definitely not Marquise Brown because he's too expensive for the usage. Snead I was looking at it, he had more than 4 targets, the most out of any Browns receiver this year. So I guess if there was one, I'd do Willie Snead for $5,000 and hope he catches a touchdown. But that's a big dart throw. Meerkat, any Ravens pass catchers you want to go for?
I like Marquise Brown. I hate to do it. Like I said, I'm going to be weird for this Sunday slate. It's going to be weird. Marquise Brown is my 3rd wide receiver for Sunday. You look at him on DraftKings since week 12. He's at 18.5, 15, 13, 16, 13, 21. He's really stepped it up for his price tag. His price tag hasn't reflected his uptrend that much. He's at 5,400. That makes him the 7th most expensive receiver right now. I think the Ravens are going to go off, and I can see Marquise Brown drawing, those 6 to 10 target range, but I like him to get a long touchdown.
If you give yourself the nickname Hollywood, you got to do better than that, in my opinion. Chris, do you like Marquise Brown as well, or?
This week, he has been on a tear. Last time they played Tennessee earlier in the season, Marquise Brown put up a goose egg, actually. But that's even more the reason nobody's going to be picking him. Half the battle is picking the players that nobody else is going to pick.
It's true.
So I think that's a great dart throw, especially for people like me that's going to look at that and just completely dismiss it. But then again, he could completely go off, and then nobody's going to have him. So I like Marquise Brown. I probably won't personally put him in my lineup, but if you feel it, you go with your gut,
Sure. It's a little expensive for me to be a dart throw. So I'm definitely avoiding him. But at the same time, at this moment, I have Willie Snead sitting in that 3rd wide receiver spot, and that's just as ugly. Actually, that's way more ugly. I'll be honest. I'm not going to say that. And so we'll move on to Tennessee. The Ravens' pass defense has actually been kind of really good over the year. They're the 3rd best team against wide receivers. when you're talking fantasy points. So, AJ Brown is debatably the most talented wide receiver on the Sunday slate.
Gosh, man.
Yeah. is his talent enough? I forgot who we ended with. Chris, we ended with you there, so we'll start there this time. Is AJ Brown's talent enough for you to put him into your lineups this week, or would you rather go down with Corey Davis if you're going in this passing game?
Oh, to me?
Oh, no, Chris.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's all good.
AJ Brown's actually my number one receiver on the week.
All
right, keep saying that on this slate, on this day.
Okay.
They played just 62 yards and a touchdown. It's only gotten better since then.
Yeah.
I think that Lamar is going to run the score up, and they're going to have to keep up. They're not going to be able to run it as much. I think that he is the main guy. Corey Davis is another great value play, probably, if you wanted to jump down. AJ Brown is $8,400, $1,200 more than the next most expensive receiver on that slate. So I think that I love AJ Brown this week, but if I had to make room, Corey Davis is a great play. I think they're going to have to keep up. So I think that they'll be throwing the ball a lot.
Yeah, I have AJ Brown at number 2. My number 1 wide receiver is going to be in the next game that we'll talk about, so we'll talk about him soon. But yeah, I'm kind of staying away from AJ Brown. I do love him as a player. I actually have a bet with my friend. He has DK Metcalf. I have AJ Brown, who has the most receiving yards by the end of their rookie contracts. Very fun bet. It's a $400 bet, and it's still really, really close, which is great. So I love the player. Probably going to avoid him this week just because it's hard to fit an $8,400 receiver, as I keep saying, when I have Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry there. Meerkat, how expensive is AJ Brown on DraftKings? Can you fit him in?
AJ Brown, $7,000. He is my wide receiver 1, but I'm not going to be playing him in lineups. I think he does have a good game, but that price tag of $7,000 is just so much. If I'm playing a Tennessee receiver, it's going to be Corey Davis because his production really hasn't been that far off, and he is $2,200 cheaper on DraftKings. I like Corey Davis a lot. AJ Brown is going to draw, the main attention of Baltimore secondary, which is no joke. And I'm not saying AJ Brown's going to get shut down. I think he still is going to be probably the best performing receiver of the entire slate. But if I'm taking a Tennessee pass catcher, it's going to be Corey Davis or Gianna Smith.
So, you do like Jonnu Smith? Because I had him in a couple of leagues, and it's just at a certain point in the year, he had some injury problems, but when they had the key pieces of their offensive line go out, Smith just kept staying in the block way more than he was running routes, and that's maybe it's recency bias from me having to drop him in my guillotine league, but I'm kind of staying away from him. Not going to Anthony Ferguson either. I'm not saying that that's a good idea. But Chris, you not?
Yeah, I was gonna say, they don't hate him though.
Yeah, no, they don't hate Jonnu Smith. He is a very talented guy. He learned from Delaney Walker when he was still there too, so that's great for him. You were nodding your head when he said Jonnu Smith, Chris. Do you like him too?
I have him at number 3 on this slate.
Okay.
He had 10 points last time he played Baltimore. I think they're gonna. I don't remember if this was in the playoffs last year. They handed the ball to him and he scored.
Yeah, they did.
Pull some stuff out like that again. I like him as a value. He's my number 3. I think that if I had to make some room, he's $700 less than Jared Cook, $100 less than Mark Andrews. If I had to make room, say I'm stacking Tannehill and AJ Brown or Corey Davis, I would consider a three player stack for the Titans because I think it's going to be such a high scoring game.
What would that stack be?
Probably Tannehill. Because I'm not going to be spending that much money on Lamar. If I take Tannehill, I'll probably be able to take AJ Brown, and then I'd probably put Jonnu Smith.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, you said Jared Cook, so let's get into that game. Actually, first, are either of you taking? We've all said that this is going to be a high scoring game. Not going to touch the Baltimore or the Tennessee defenses.
No, Tennessee's my 6th ranked defense on the day. I actually don't hate Baltimore, so I have them at 3rd. But
I have it the same exact way, actually. Yeah.
What are their price there right now? $2,200. If you look across the whole slate, Titans are the cheapest right now. It's rough, but Baltimore, they're up at $3,300. It's not bad. They're sitting right in the middle of the pack, so I might look at Baltimore's because I don't like Tennessee. But this is a game I'm probably going to avoid betting on because I could kind of see just a weird team that will turn it on at any time. They get the crazy plays to go in their favor, and Baltimore can turn it off at any time. So we'll see, but I do like Baltimore runners. I do like some Tennessee pass catchers, but defenses,
Yeah, no, I feel you there. That's literally is exactly how I would say it. So we'll move on. New Orleans and Chicago. This is going to be a weird game. This just feels like a game like the Bears are going to win. I don't know why. I think this is either 10-point favorites, 8-point favorites, something like that. But it's probably going to be a low-scoring game. It feels like something like I like the Bears. We'll start with defense, oddly enough. I'll do that. I like the Bears defense at 3,700. I think that's actually a super good value, especially if Alvin Kamara is out. He did test positive for COVID last week. So first and foremost, really hope that he has a full recovery and that it doesn't have any lasting effects on him in the future and that he can get back on the football field because he's just the most fun running back to watch in the game right now. I swear. He really is. But if Kamara's out, that to me does three things. It makes the Chicago Bears defense extremely valuable at 3,700. It makes Latavius Murray a lock for my lineup. And it makes Jared Cook a lock for my lineup because the Bears were 30th against tight ends for fantasy points this year. 30th. That's the worst of all playoff teams. So that was a lot right there. I know. I got excited. I love this game. I really do love Saints-Bears. I don't know why. Meerkat, what do you think about the Bears' defense? What do you think about Jared Cook? What do you think about Latavius Murray?
So the Bears' defense right now, I actually have ranked pretty low because I think New Orleans without Michael Thomas is still going to be able to go off. In regards to Latavius Murray, it depends because I know he's dealing with the COVID thing too, and Kamara we don't know. I'm going forward thinking they're going to figure out a way to get Kamara to play in this game, and if he does, that automatically I put Kamara number one on my board on my slate rankings for running back above Henry just because how many passes he's been catching. I know Chicago's got a good defense, but I think the Saints are just going to destroy them. I actually like the Saints defense as a play. 3,800 is expensive. It's the most expensive on the slate for DraftKings, but I don't trust Mitchell Trubisky. I know the team's playing for him, and the story of him's cool. I got respect for him. He went 5-0, got benched. His backups, the guys he got benched for sucked. He comes back, leads them to the playoffs, even though they didn't deserve it. I have respect for the guy. I just think in the playoff stage against the Saints, who have a really good defense that doesn't get talked about a ton, they'll be able to take advantage of a Bears offense that doesn't scare me.
Yeah.
But if we get no Kamara, I love Latavius Murray to answer that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, of course. Chris, same thing over to you. What do you think about, Bears defense? All of it.
If Kamara doesn't play and Michael Thomas doesn't play, I love the Bears defense, especially it's 1,100 on FanDuel, less than the Saints. Right now I have the Saints slotted in at 2, but if Kamara doesn't play and I need to save some money, I have no problem playing the Bears defense.
Yeah, and for me, what else sticks out here is Allen Robinson. I mean, he is just no matter who is throwing him the ball, this man has made himself a nice paycheck in the offseason here when he's up for free agency. 7,200 on FanDuel. The dude he catches every ball that's thrown to him, no matter how badly thrown it is. And when Mitch Trubisky's your quarterback, like you said, respect the guy. Didn't deserve to get benched. Happy he succeeded down the stretch, but he's not the best thrower of the football in the world. So I think against the Saints, Allen Robinson is going to be a big priority for these guys. Yes, hammering David Montgomery worked for them, but you can't really do that against the Saints. You can't just give David Montgomery the ball 25 to 30 times a game and think it'll work. That run defense is a lot better than who they face going down the stretch. Actually, the Saints are the number one run defense for fantasy points in the NFL. So I love David Montgomery as a player, but I think if there's one player on the Browns offense I'm going to attach myself to, it's Allen Robinson.
To go off of what you just said, I mean, they played him earlier in the season. They tried to hammer the rock with Montgomery. He had 21 attempts for 89 yards, no touchdowns. So, I mean, it was not great at that price, 8,400. That's not a performance that you want. I completely agree with you. Allen Robinson, 17.7 points last time they played. Great value as well as Jared Cook. I also have Bears. I love this game, honestly. It's got a lot of sneaky value. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it could be a high-scoring game, even though it's two good defenses, but they're also two really, really well-coached teams. Sean Payton might not be as good of a coach as he used to be, but he's still Sean Payton. And the Bears do have some good stuff going for them over there. Meerkat, anything else from this game you're looking to attack on the Browns side of the ball?
On the Bears side?
Yeah, Bears. I'm sorry. They're both orange.
No, you're good. You're good. Nothing really on the Bears stands out to me a ton in this one. Chris brought up a lot of sneaky plays in this one, though. One I'm going to keep my eye on. I'm not locking in yet. Depends on Kamara and Latavius Murray news is you got to take a look at Ty Montgomery. He is less than half of the price of Kamara. I know it was a Week 17 game, but he still had 105 yards on 18 carries. I'm surprised he only got 2 targets, 1 catch, because he's a guy who's been utilized as a receiver out of the backfield. But if those guys are out, he shows his legs are fresh in that Week 17. I know Week 17 still, I'm not overreacting, but he will be a good, cheap option if, the COVID results don't come back negative.
For New Orleans pass catchers, Emmanuel Sanders doesn't excite me a whole lot. He's done relatively well in the number 1 receiver role while Michael Thomas has been out. Doesn't look like Michael Thomas. I don't know if he's eligible to come off IR this week. I think it's next week he's eligible to play. Even though he'd be a great value at 6,800, don't look to put Michael Thomas into your lineups this week. Chris and I have a good friend who always plays someone on IR every single week. Sorry, Woods. But I do kind of like Michael Callaway at 4,900 on the Saints. I'm not going to say he's going to score a touchdown. I'm not going to say that by any means. But the targets have been coming his way in the past couple of weeks, and he's only $4,900. And there was a play he had against the Chiefs that I think earned him a lot more playing time, and it wasn't a catch, but it was preventing an interception. Breeze kind of just chucked the ball into the end zone, and it was directly to a Chiefs player, and Callaway got his arm up in there, got the ball out. That's a play that earns you trust from your quarterback. I think Michael Callaway might get some more opportunities come playoff time, come this weekend against the Bears. And, that the Bears secondary, it's good, not great. It's not as good as their run defense, in my opinion. Am I crazy for thinking Michael Callaway might be a good play? Either of you?
No, I had Marquise Callaway. Wait, is it Michael or Marquez?
It's Marquez. It's Marquez.
Oh, okay. No, you're good. You're good. I'm always write stuff down. I was only doing 10 rankings for each position. I put an 11th spot in for wide receiver here to make him my 11th because I think he's another good sneaky play in this one. He's getting those targets. He's got 4 the past 2 weeks after a stretch of, just 2 over 4 weeks. But he had a game with 8 catches for 75 yards. He had a game of 4 for 34. They are lacking at receiver. Is Emmanuel Sanders enough without Michael Thomas? Traquan Smith on IR, that's a huge blow. Who else do you got if, about next to Emmanuel Sanders? It's Callaway. You're going to put Austin Carr there. I know they have they recently signed touchdown Jesus J. Kumaro, but I'm not really going to make it a play, but Marquez Callaway is interesting for GPPs and a cheap guy to fill in.
And we'll finish off with or Chris, do you have anything to add on Callaway? Sorry, cut you off.
Just if there was ever a slate to save money, it'd be this one. So I like that.
Yeah, no, that's exactly why he's there, is to save money. And anything with Trubisky or Breeze, I have Breeze as my 4th quarterback on the slate, and Trubisky is my 5th. So I don't really think that, especially with Lamar Jackson there's no reason to try to go down 1,500 to Breeze, or actually 2,400 to Trubisky is kind of significant. I'm still not going to play either of them, though. Anyone over there for Breeze or Trubisky?
I'm avoiding Trubisky and Breeze. I actually don't hate. He's my 3rd QB behind Lamar and Tannehill. We'll get into the other 2 quarterbacks next. Trubisky's my last ranked one, but I don't hate Breeze. I know he's lacking receivers, but this is dependent on Kamara. Kamara playing will be massive for this team.
Chris,
So I think Breeze right now is my number 4, but I think he could be number 3. The one thing I want to point out is this could be his last game, so he's going to be playing his heart out.
True.
He announced he was going to retire after the season. Had 20 points against the Bears early in the season. I think he's a good play if you want to get some value. He is my number 4. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, but you can't go. I don't think you're not going to regret playing it. You might regret not getting one. He's not going to screw you.
Yeah, it's not that you'll regret playing Breeze. It's that you'll regret taking out Lamar Jackson or Ryan Tannehill to play Breeze. So maybe more of a cash game play instead of tournaments where you don't need to finish as high. But then now we'll move into the last game, Sunday Night Football. Why did they make this the Sunday night game? I'm not one of the guys who's super pissed about the Bills getting the first game of the weekend, but I feel like Colts Bills at least will be a little more exciting. Two higher scoring offenses. I will say I do really like Deontay Johnson in this game, and for Bills fans, don't let your bias of only knowing him from getting benched for dropping 3 passes in the primetime game. That's not who Deontay Johnson is as a player. He's actually their number 1 wide receiver. He's young. He made some mistakes in that game. He's probably the reason the Steelers lost that game. I'm going to come out and say that he is the absolute reason. It was never close, really, after the second half, or into the second half. But at 7,000 against the Cleveland Browns, the Browns had the 25th ranked defense for wide receivers in fantasy this year. Deontay Johnson, there's a world where he finishes as the number 1 receiver on the weekend. I think that at 7,000, you've got to put him in your lineups. Meerkat?
Yeah, Deontay Johnson's my 3rd receiver on my board behind A.J. Brown and Jarvis Landry. I mixed up earlier. Hollywood Brown's not 3rd. He's 4th behind Deontay Johnson. I like Deontay Johnson a lot. He's my favorite Pittsburgh receiver. The other 2 I don't hate with Juju and Claypool is the big guys. James Washington's not making my top 11, which I have here. I like Juju and Claypool, but they're a little lower end. I actually think Roethlisberger's going to struggle a lot against the Browns defense. I like the Browns secondary, and I don't hate Baker in this game. Like I said, it's weird how it's going, but Jarvis Landry, I'm playing him as receiver too. I like him more than Deontay Johnson against the Steelers defense, which is a bit surprising, but I love them both. I think this is a good receiver slate. Like I said, a good running back slate, but you can get a lot of value for the higher tiered receivers here, I feel like, with guys like Landry and Johnson, who are still a high price tag, but should probably be valued a little more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Chris, over to you. What are your thoughts on this game?
So I actually have Claypool as my number 3 receiver on the week, or not on the week, on this.
Wow, interesting.
I have Juju at 4 too. So I've got Claypool, and they played twice this season, 9 catches, 175 yards and 1 touchdown, 17 points per game against the Browns.
Wow, okay.
Juju, last time they played at home, 6 catches, 65 yards and a touchdown. I'm a little worried about Kevin Stefanski being not coaching that game because of came down with COVID.
Yeah, of course.
I'm worried about Joel Bitonio, the 3-time Pro Bowl left guard. So I'm kind of fading the Browns this week a little bit. I think that also them dancing and mocking them in the locker room after the game wasn't the smartest thing to do if you're going to play them next week. The Corvette song, taking TikToks in their locker room after they won. But I think if I'm a Pittsburgh Steeler, I'm saying we didn't play Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah.
Now we're going in, and you guys don't have your head coach or your best offensive lineman, and you're coming into my house now. I think that's going to make a big difference. They're going to play a little bit more hard because of them division opponent mocking them.
Yeah, Juju now knows how it feels to have someone dance on your logo pretty much and do TikToks with teenagers for a living. Jesus. I'm not going to say the Steelers don't deserve it, and my family is a family of Steelers fans for the most part, but oh my God.
Definitely did. Juju definitely just learned his lesson, but I just don't think it's the smartest. If you're not going to play them again, fine. But if you're playing them the next week, I don't think that's the best idea to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's already a divisional game. They're familiar with each other. They don't like each other at all, really. I do kind of like Nick Chubb in this game. I mean, like, granted, I know I'm not taking a lot from this Week 17 game because most of the Steelers starters weren't really playing all that much. But, Nick Chubb is still, at 7,700, he's still a pretty good value. He had 17 points in this last game against them, and he had, where was it the first time he didn't even play? So, a one-game sample size, unfortunately. But that game that he was out, Kareem Hunt still did relatively well. Kareem Hunt is the only thing that scares me off of Nick Chubb because it seems that they take turns way too much, but they both always eat every single game. I understand if someone wants to go down from Chubb to Kareem Hunt. On FanDuel, Chubb is $7,700, and Kareem Hunt is all the way down at $5,900. So, I feel like I'm probably going to end up going down to Kareem Hunt instead of Chubb. Meerkat, do you have a preference between the two?
I love Chubb. I love Hunt. Honestly, I might get really stupid in like one of my GPPs and play them both.
Why not?
But
it could work. Those are the GPP lineups.
I don't hate that. Like, yeah, right. I like them both a lot this week, but I definitely lean Chubb. I think the price tag is the main thing to wear me off on DraftKings. It's a $1,900 difference. Chubb is $67. Hunt is $48, and I just like Chubb. I'm going to lean Chubb. I think he's still worth it just a little bit. He is the man there, and he is such a big play threat where Kareem Hunt's kind of lost that big play threat a little bit, where he's just more consistent, big chunks of yards guy.
Chris, any preference between you for him?
Yeah, I'm Chubb 100%. The last two times Kareem Hunt played Pittsburgh, he had pretty bad games. He had 6.7 points and 4.6 points. Whereas Chubb actually went off both times. He had 16.8 and he didn't play the last time, but he had 16.8 last time they played. And I mean, Kareem Hunt the last two times they played, he didn't do that much against them. So if I'm choosing one of them, I'm gonna stick with Chubb.
Yeah, that's where I am too. I mean, like I did say that I might go down to Hunt just to save money, but like Chubb is by far much more attractive. We talked about the quarterbacks for this game a little bit earlier. Meerkat says he likes Baker Mayfield. He's my last ranked quarterback on the Sunday slate. So why do you like Baker Mayfield? And explain it to me like I'm fine.
Like I said, I'm weird for this Sunday. I'm going with a lot of gut stuff, but Baker hasn't been awful. He had some huge games near the end of this season. If you look at, Jacksonville, he had a big game, but then against Tennessee, he had a massive game from a fantasy standpoint. Baltimore in Week 14, a massive game. Another big game against the Giants. Again, you look at these opponents, and in Week 17 against Pittsburgh, he had 16.24. He still outlived, that price tag times 3 mark on DraftKings at least. I just don't like Roethlisberger is my biggest thing. I am leaning towards Cleveland winning. Now I'm talking myself. I loved Pittsburgh a few days ago. It's weird, and now I'm talking myself into Cleveland, which makes me think I'm so wrong. But it's a gut thing. It's a weird thing. I like Mayfield against Pittsburgh. I think Cleveland, the COVID stuff today doesn't affect them too much. I think they get that straightened out real quick. They have to, and the NFL should be pretty lenient with them. But I think Baker is. You see what he does for Cleveland, all these videos coming out of what he does for fans and stuff. He really is a good dude. I know he was kind of a dick in college and stuff, but I don't know. I'm rooting for Baker. I think he's going to do everything he can for the city of Cleveland on Sunday.
Yeah, he said that if there's one guy who's going to get Cleveland the first playoff win for them in so long, it's going to be him. He said that before he was even drafted, and he's still saying that now. He's stuck by it. He's definitely improved. For a while, it looked like he might be a huge bust as the number 1 overall pick. This year has been a huge turnaround for him. I don't think it's been enough, talking long term. I don't think they'll probably sign him, get his 5th-year option on his rookie contract and then sign the next offseason just to see if he can replicate it again. But, I wouldn't be surprised if he went to Pittsburgh and just, put the team on his back if they called him to. He almost did it against Baltimore in that crazy game earlier this year. So, he's definitely got it in him. And at 6,700, that's actually kind of a very good value, especially I'm standing by having Lamar Jackson in my lineup, but he's $9,300. That is a pretty penny to swallow. If I want to get Allen Robinson in, if I want to get Deontay Johnson and Derrick Henry in, that might be a necessary evil for me to go down to someone like Baker. God, Meerkat, I hate what you're doing to me. I don't like what you're doing to me right now. Stop.
I'm sorry. Like I said, I'm just riding with my gut for the Sunday slate because there's a lot of weirdness outside of that Baltimore Tennessee game. I feel like I got that pretty nailed down, but then Chicago, New Orleans gets a little weird, and then you get the Cleveland, Pittsburgh, and I'm just throwing the books out the window. Like I got Mayfield as my fourth quarterback, Roethlisberger is my fifth, Trubisky is my sixth. So I don't love Mayfield, but I do like him, and I do like Jarvis Landry.
Chris, are you a sucker for peer pressure like I am, or are you staying away from Baker Mayfield?
It all has to do with if Kevin Stefanski's there. He's such a talented play caller. I think he has a lot to do with Baker's growth this year. Their talented left guard, 3-time Pro Bowlers out. That really scares me as well. I mean, if Stefanski's in, I would feel more comfortable playing Mayfield. But if he's not, I'm not going to touch him.
Yeah, interesting. That's a good that you keep bringing that up, and that is a very good point. That's something we'll keep everybody abreast to as time goes on this week. If we hear any news coming out about these players' injuries, the COVID lists, all that, we're posting it on the Trainwreck Fantasy Twitter. So we will finish up now. We'll talk about our locks for Sunday. I feel like we're all over the place right now, and I don't even know what my own locks are, so I'm going to go last. Meerkat, you've been getting weird with it. We'll start with you here. Give me 3 locks for the Sunday slate.
I'm going 2 out of Tennessee, Baltimore. I'm going with Gus Edwards 1. My locks are value, like GPP, like value kind of locks, So I'm going with Gus Edwards for Baltimore, and then I'm going with Corey Davis for Tennessee. I like both of their price tags, compared to who's in front of them with Dobbins in front of Edwards and A.J. Brown, obviously, in front of Davis. The production between both of those is really not that far apart for what the price tags are. And then outside of that, a weird one that I really like for some reason, I didn't even bring up for some reason, but it's a high price tag for the position, is Austin Hooper. I think he gets a lot of looks with Cleveland's wide receiver core still being depleted. It's going to be Landry, it's going to be Higgins, and then it's going to be Hooper, I think. Maybe even Hooper above Higgins for when Baker's making his reads. He's having a good year, nothing insane. It's not like he had last year with Atlanta, but he's earning that contract, a decent year, and if I think Baker goes off, like I think he does, Hooper's going to be a big part of that.
Yeah, and I realize we also barely even touched on Mark Andrews from Baltimore. For me, he's just too pricey. We'll touch on him real quickly because I'm sure that's something people want to hear talked about. He is, I think, at like $7,000 even on FanDuel. Yep, that's where he is. With Jared Cook, $1,100 cheaper. With Austin Hooper, with Jonnu Smith, even if you wanted to go with someone like Jimmy Graham against Chicago, who has a bad tight end defense too. I feel good about not paying up for Andrews. Chris, do you feel the same way?
So as I'm looking at Andrews, last time he played Tennessee, 18 points. Jared Cook last time played Baltimore, 13.6. So is that 4.5 points worth the 1,100? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if I was gonna do something like that, I would probably pick Jared Cook, maybe even Jonnu Smith. So I mean, Mark Andrews is very tempting, but if I'm trying to make it work with $60,000, I don't think I'm gonna be able to.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I'm right there. Meerkat, anything else to add on Andrews, or we continue with the locks?
He's my top tight end. Probably maybe for the whole day, like the whole wild card round, not just Sunday. But the biggest thing I just see is I like Jared Cook. I think he's gonna have a solid day. But I like Austin Hooper a ton more for $700 cheaper.
Gotcha. Okay, Chris, locks over to you. Who are your locks for Sunday?
My locks are gonna be James Conner. I think he's going to have a 100-yard
game. We barely talked about him, too. What do you like about Conner?
I think that, like I said, I honestly think that Pittsburgh is going to come out hot. I think that they're going to run the ball well. And last time they played at home, Conner had 101 yards and a touchdown. I think home field advantage matters, and I think that I keep touching back. I think missing Stefanski is going to really hurt the Browns if it comes down to that. So that's my running back lock. My wide receiver lock's probably going to be Chase Claypool.
Interesting. Okay.
Because I like his values at 6,100. Went off the last 2 games he's played against the Browns, and then I really like.
You said Pittsburgh D?
Pittsburgh's defense, yeah.
Man, Yeah, I mean, that's going straight against Meerkat, so I love that right there. Obviously not going to play Pittsburgh defense and Baker. That'd be one interesting stack.
They had 18 points at home last time they played. That's why I said.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, that's definitely.
I'm not arguing against it. Like I said, I'm all over the place for this slate. I make no sense.
Throw the dart.
Throwing the dart, especially if Stefanski's not going to be there for the game. That Pittsburgh defense.
Only if Stefanski. Those are Stefanski's not going to play.
Love that. Yeah. For me, my locks for this week, for Sunday, probably going to go Gus Edwards, going to go Derrick Henry, and Deontay Johnson would probably be the last one that I know is a lock. Still a little shaky on tight end. Meerkat has me wanting to play Baker Mayfield, so I got to go reevaluate a lot of things I know about myself. But, I'll figure that out eventually. Just until this weekend, good luck on your fantasy lineups, everyone. This is going to be – I know this is the last thing on our minds for Wild Card Weekend is fantasy. But, enjoy the Bills game. That's what this all boils down to. Saturday is going to be such a fun time. If you're not listening for the Bills, if you're not a Buffalo fan, if you found this, looking for fantasy advice, I'm sorry. I'm just going to say, Bills Mafia, we've earned this. We've earned the right to enjoy some playoff football. Don't be stressed. I'm going to be stressed as hell, so I'm a huge hypocrite. But just enjoy the weekend. Meerkat, any parting wisdom for Bills Mafia and fantasy players for Wild Card Weekend?
Let's go Bills. And if you're a season ticket holder and missed out on your seniority for this game, I think you're going to be just fine getting tickets next week because go Bills. Bills by $1 billion. We got this game.
Chris, parting words?
Bills -7.
Bills -7. Bills cover in the over. That's it for me. All right, everybody. This has been the first episode of Trainwreck Fantasy Football. Thank you for tuning in. Go Bills and get your lineups in.